Fable number 2. Hey there, my friend. It's okay to feel the way you do. A world of contrast and moral conflict is always stuck and moving at the same rate. There are boundaries everywhere. Some are strong, some are weak. It all depends on what we speak and do, or not speak and not do. The earth is divided between land and sea, a solid bubble in space and time, and your time and space within the solid bubble of the self. Let me tell you another story of my own creation. One about the Beaver, Virgo, and the Sturgeon, Pisces. The Beaver is in her prime. She has a lot of work to do and has no time. She is the processor of the forest and the river. She is born from Mother Earth to serve as her truest and humblest representative. She knows without knowledge that the wood is her food and her home, and so is the water. She is compelled by her strong health as a powerful being who lives in two worlds that she believes are one, which were made just for her, since she occupies such a unique niche that has little of any competition at all. When predators come from the land, all that she needs to do is jump in the water. If then predators come from the water, she can again jump on land. If that doesn't work, she knows without knowing that she and her community have built an elaborate system of tunnels and dams that provide superior security. She feels foolproof and solid. One day, though, one of Beaver's children went missing. Beaver is sad, but she is not arrogant enough to deny what happened, but she is also not aware enough to not deny what happened. She finds herself trapped in herself. She loses her composure, which affects her health and drive. She gets no relief by talking with other beavers as usual, but talking with anyone who is not a beaver seems pointless. One day, as Beaver is swimming downstream to her favorite grove to work, she passes by a giant sturgeon. She gets an unusual feeling inside her that she can't figure out, so she decides to ignore it and move on. All of a sudden, she hears an old, soft but powerful voice call her name. "Beaver," says the sturgeon. Beaver stops swimming and is hypnotized by the sound of the old sturgeon. "Beaver, I know how you feel." Beaver now is completely silent. Something was happening that is so unfamiliar to her and her routine of reality. The sturgeon then proceeds to divulge her life's tale to the beaver while she has her attention. The sturgeon explains to Beaver that she can speak her language and many more, but she doesn't remember how because she's so old. The beaver asks how old she is, and Sturgeon says, "Ancient." The sturgeon doesn't remember how old she is because she has transcended her own time to a place where every countable thing she was, is, and becomes is irrelevant to the way she feels right now. The sturgeon explains to Beaver that she can feel her pain of losing because the sturgeon has lost many of her children, yet somehow she's still here. The sturgeon explains how she's traveled across every ocean, every river, looking for her own. Beaver doesn't know what an ocean is, but she understands what Sturgeon's words mean without knowing them. The sturgeon tells Beaver that on her quest she's found many of her children and her children's children and so on, but eventually none of them were recognizable to her as she grew older. The sturgeon and the beaver became strange friends, and the beaver learned about many of the sturgeon's adventures and weird tales of different colors and sounds beyond her riparian home. The beaver tells Sturgeon about her life and her work and what it is like living in the perfect niche of two worlds that are one, which allows the beaver to enjoy staying close to home and kin. To the sturgeon, everywhere is her home, and every living animal on the sea and the land is one of her children. The beaver doesn't quite believe the sturgeon, but she doesn't mind her either because the charitable nature of the wise old fish and her stories have lifted Beaver's spirits back to health again so she could do a better job being a beaver at work. One day, the sturgeon didn't return. The beaver was worried about the sturgeon, but somehow knew without knowing in her gut that the sturgeon would be okay no matter what because the sturgeon had left a piece of her soul from her long tails to stick with the beaver forever. One day, as the beaver was finishing the work on one of her dam projects, a thought occurred to herself briefly. Maybe the sturgeon is on the other side of the dam. She crawled to the top of the dam to see with her little eyes that were better made for small projects rather than looking out into the vast wilderness. All of a sudden, the beaver saw something she could not believe. She saw the sturgeon trying to jump over the dam, but instead the sturgeon jumped so high into the air that she flew. As the sturgeon passed over the dam, Beaver heard her say one thing: "Thank you." Then the sturgeon flew off above the trees to someplace beyond the beaver's imagination. The beaver felt weird but good. So good, in fact, that she knew without knowing that she could never speak to other beavers of what she saw because they would never believe her. Beaver knew, though, that she would keep the stories and the tales from the sturgeon inside her forever. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for life. Thank you for death. And remember, this land does not belong to you. You belong to this land.